All right, hello everyone and welcome. I'm Katie Covey-Spanier. I'm the Director of Public Programming and Student Engagement here at the Weisman Art Museum. We begin by acknowledging that the University of Minnesota Twin Cities and Weisman Art Museum is located within the traditional homelands of the Dakota people. It's important to acknowledge the peoples on whose land we live, learn, and work as we seek to improve and strengthen our relations with our tribal nations. This land acknowledgement is just the first step in the long, complex process of reconciling with the colonial legacy of our institution. With this acknowledgement and our ongoing work with the repatriation of the members' cultural materials and our Truth and Reconciliation Project, we affirm our commitment to this process. WAM would like to thank the voters of Minnesota through Minnesota State Arts Board's funds and the Wells Fargo Foundation Minnesota for supporting our operational budget, as well as individuals like you who contribute to the annual fund. If you feel inspired by today's program, please consider making a gift that's right for you by scanning the QR code in lobby as you leave. And after our talk, there'll be a multimodal Q&A. We want to hear from you and invite you to submit your questions and thoughts to us through Slido, which is very easy to join. Just take out your smartphones and you can go to slido.com and you enter the code 1022401. And throughout the talk, you can submit your questions. And you can also upvote questions if you want to bring a question to the top that Skawennati will then answer. You can also ask questions the old-fashioned way and raise your hand, and we'll bring a microphone around. Tonight's program is held in conjunction with the Weisman's current exhibition, Message from Our Planet, Digital Art from the Toma Collection, a new media exhibition that brings together 20 software, video, and light technology artworks from 19 international artists and artist groups working at the forefront of digital and electronic art. Message from Our Planet is curated by Jason Fohnberg, curator of digital art for the Carl and Marilyn Toma Foundation, on view at the Weisman Art Museum until May 14th, 2023. And now I am so pleased to introduce our featured artist this evening, Skawennati, whose work TimeTraveller reorients the subjectivity of Indigenous lived experience and fantasy through movie making in a virtual environment. In her work, Skawennati investigates history, the future, and change from her perspective as an urban Mohawk woman and as a cyberpunk avatar. Her machimas, still images, textiles, and sculpture have been presented internationally and are included in the collections of the National Gallery of Canada, the Museum of Contemporary Art Montreal, and the Toma Foundation, among others. Recipient of an honorary doctorate from the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, she is also a founding board member of Daphne, Montreal's first Indigenous artist-run center. She co-directs Aboriginal Territories and Cyberspace, a research creation network based at Concordia University, where she received her BFA. Originally from Mohawk Territory, Skawennati resides in Montreal. She is represented by Elephant. Please join me in welcoming Skawennati to the stage.
Sego Sewa Guego, Skawennati Ujats. My name is Skawennati, and I'm very happy to be here. Wagatsanuni. I would like to start by thanking Katie for inviting me. It seems like quite a long time ago. And thank you to Rel and Laura for helping set this all up, and to everyone at the museum who had a part in getting me here. I am going to present, I'm going to talk about my work, but I'm doing a slightly different presentation than I've ever done because since TimeTraveller TM is here, and since TimeTraveller has an episode that features this place, I wanted to tell the story of how TimeTraveller came about. And then I'll show you a little bit more of my work as well. But I like to start by telling you who I am, because that is important. I am from the Turtle Clan, and in my community of Kahnawake, there are 3 clans: Turtle, Bear, and Wolf. There are 9 Mohawk communities in Canada, Ontario, in the area where I'm from, and we form the Mohawk Oregon-Yangehaga Nation. And for those of you who don't know, because a lot of people even in my territory don't know this, there are 6 nations that form the Iroquois or Haudenosaunee Confederacy. I am the co-director of Aboriginal Territories in Cyberspace. I think you said that in my bio, so I wanted you to see the logo and to let you know that what we do is we want to make sure that Indigenous people are present in cyberspace. And cyberspace is a definition that sort of keeps expanding. And so I think that it is this: software, websites, video games, apps, online worlds, virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and whatever is coming next. I'm also co-director of a project, I guess you could say, a series of workshops called Skins, and we teach Indigenous youth how to make a video game, how to make a machinima, how to tell stories from their communities with digital tools. And I just wanted you to see that. Like, these are the different Skins logos that we've had over the years. I guess logos. And I want to tell you that my title comes from very much in homage to another Mohawk artist who is walking the path a little bit ahead of me, Shelley Nero. She made this piece called Mohawks and Beehives. And this piece and the series was like kind of mind-blowing at the time because it dared to show these women dressed, Indian women dressed in contemporary manner and that had beehives, oh my God, and so I feel like in a way my work wouldn't exist without this work. I mean, it might have, but it was like, it really spoke to me and I felt like I could go forward and talk about Indigenous people in the future because that is what I'm really trying to do in my work at the moment. I think there have been plenty of images of us in the past, and I love these images. I think they're beautiful and I think they're very important, even though we never seem to have names once in these pictures. But I think that there's a danger as well that people want to go back to that time. People, my people, and lots of Indigenous people, it feels like to me, is that, we are longing for a past that was not interrupted, a past in which this land, stayed ours and stayed, sovereign in Indigenous hands with Indigenous values. I don't think we can go back to that. I think we can create something new that could look like that, and that's what I'd like to see happen. And so I love science fiction, and I love being Mohawk, and I'm putting the two things together, and I'm showing us in the future. And I'm not trying to predict the future. I think that what I'm doing is imagining a future that I would like and that maybe we all could have, and possibly providing a kind of a goal, or at least a conversation where people can say, oh yeah, I'd like that to be in my future too. Or they can say, what, a powwow where you win $1 million in a car? Like, that's so capitalist, no thank you. So that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, I'm just gonna ask the question here now. Who here has seen TimeTraveller TM? Thank you. Okay, I just wanted to know because that will help me with what I say. So, that's what I'm going to talk about. I want to tell you the story of how it came about, but I might flip and I'm going to show you a little clip, a 3-minute version. The whole thing is actually 75 minutes long, but this can hopefully tell you what it kind of looks like and feels like a little bit. So I'm just going to...
Time for a little edutainment.
Yeah,
TimeTraveller
crank it.
TM on.
It's just 3 minutes.
Traveling through time these days is easy, thanks to TimeTraveller TM. Witness important historical events.
Tonight, it's a standoff. The situation very tense.
Motherfucker.
Hey! Come on. What is happening? What does this mean?
This is the sign of a saint.
Or interact with the people who made them happen.
Hey, that's Richard Oakes driving the pickup. Come on!
You can even customize your own events and visit with your great-great-great-great-grandmother.
And don't even get me started on the Indian Act.
All customized characters must have existed.
Learn your history, you idiot!
It's easy and fun. Visit www.timetravellertm.com.
When it comes to history, always get a second opinion.
Hunter? I'm I'm not sure if that was a religious experience, a flashback, or a rift in the space-time continuum. Wow. Famous Mohawks. How do you work this thing?
Welcome, you beautiful Aboriginal people. Welcome. Welcome to the Manitowoc Powwow 2112.
Did he just say 2112?
You will witness some of the best drumming and dancing in the galaxy.
I wonder if Hunter's here. Come on, these glasses gotta be able to do something.
Alcatraz is not an island. Alcatraz is an inspiration. It is the idea that you can control your own destiny and self-determine your own future.
How did you get a pair of time travelers?
I like the idea of going somewhere pre-contact. It's like a vacation from colonialism.
Have you heard of machinima? It was invented right around your lifetime.
Is that where you can save the action in your video game to make movies?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Hunter. You've won the most extreme time traveler contest.
I want you to come and live with me.
I felt all of time collapsing into that one moment. And I knew I was where and when I was supposed to be.
So, just keep that in your minds. In about 2001, or 2000, I guess, I was asked to make work for this show that was, so it was the millennium, right? The new millennium. And so there was like a bunch of money in Canada, at least for like millennium shows. So I was lucky enough to be asked to make a work for one of these shows. And so I wanted to make this piece that I made called Imagining Indians in the 25th Century. So this is a piece that you can still see on my website, or I think if you look, anyway, you can find it, it's there. It's based on a timeline of one millennium of First Nations history, in which I start at 1490, 2 years before Columbus came to this place, and it ends in 2490. And for each century, I chose an important event in First Nations or Indigenous history, and I made an outfit for it, and I wrote a blog journal. I didn't even know the term blog in 2000, but I made a journal entry, and I call it a paper doll time travel journal. And so the main character, so it's the not blogs are from the point of view of this Indigenous woman named Godzitsahawi Kaposo. And I loved this piece, but I have to admit that my intention was to create 4 characters, each of whom would have 10 outfits for each of these chosen centuries, okay? And it just was like, and plus I was making a website, which was like a very new thing to be doing, and I didn't know how to do that too. And I was really trying to make it so that you could like click on the suit, the clothing, and it would like go on the doll, you know, and I couldn't do it. And just side note, like about a month later after this was showing in the show, I happened to somehow see Sesame Street's website in which they had this perfect paper doll that did exactly what I wanted to, like snapped on and everything. And I was like, oh, I knew it was possible. So I had written all these, I had done like a good amount of research. I always say I'm not a historian, you know, I actually do now look at some primary source materials, but I'm not really like a person who's digging in the ground or like finding new things. I'm mostly reading books that have been written by real historians. But so I learned a lot about all these different events, and I really wanted to talk about these events from an Indigenous point of view. Anyway, and I did that, and like you'll see, anyway, maybe should have had the timeline, but these are this is how she looks in her jingle dress from the interplanetary powwow. And here she is, of course, visiting with Chakotay, the first and only Indigenous person I ever saw in the future. Not the only, there's been a couple more. The other one was actually Raven from the novel Snow Crash. And this is YT's outfit. Anyone here read Snow Crash by any chance? No? Do it. It's such a good book. It's a fun novel, and I don't understand why it hasn't been made into a movie. Okay, so here I've done this piece. Now for the next part, there's no, just don't even look at this, because there are no slides, because I could not find anything. It was so crazy to me that this whole time of my life was pre-internet, and there are no pictures to show you what I'm trying to tell you. I was invited by a curator to do a new work. What had happened, what she explained to me, that a museum in Canada had gotten this very controversial artifact. It's called a panorama, okay? It is the precursor to, it could be a precursor, you could call it, to like the modern day movie. It's this contraption that is like basically made up of probably two, beams, and it's a thing that people would do in the Old West. They would make these paintings, big canvas paintings, and sew them together and put them on a roll and then crank them. So you would have like a movie. You'd have like one painting, and then some narrator would talk about it, and then they crank it some more, and you see the next one. Well, this panorama had a theme, which was the Minnesota Massacre. And so she said, this thing is coming into the museum, and it's very problematic. It's made in the 1800s, it's told from the settler point of view, and it's really got a lot of racist stuff about Native people in it. So she invited 4 people, 2 Indigenous artists and 2 other artists, to write about the work. To write, period, in somehow responding to this piece. And so I looked at it, of course, and I read about the Dakota Uprising, or it's got a few names. I feel that I've never told this whole story in a talk before, but I really wanted to tell you because of where we are right now. And it's really interesting to me that I have been here before, but I haven't been, to Fort Snelling, or I haven't been, I didn't know this place. Like, it wasn't my history to tell, which is another thing that's interesting. To me now in 2023, talking about it, it's like, wow, I only talk about Mohawk history right now. But, at that time, it was like, it was all our history. Like, I felt that there was a different feeling among Indigenous people. Like, there were so few of us talking about anything that it was like we were all cousins, So I have this rule that I don't just make artwork for someone who asks me, if you know what I mean. My rule is like, I have these ideas and things that I want to say, and if it fits in with what they're asking me to do, then I'll go for it. And this did fit in because I had this desire to really tell the story from a male point of view, really talk about history from this male point of view, from one of the characters that I had intended to put into Imagining Indians in the 25th Century. When I was showing Imagining Indians in the 25th Century, someone said to me, "It's such a girly piece." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Paper dolls, journaling." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, this is, this is not super like advanced of me, but I'm like, okay, well then if I'm gonna do the brother piece, then I'm gonna have it be like whatever the opposite of girly piece is." And I was like, this person is like into video games, and I want it to look like a video game. And this is before I had ever heard the term machinima. Who here has heard the term machinima before or knows what I'm talking about? Yeah. I think that's just coming up in my presentation, but so I'll skip over that for a second. And so, yes, I was like, this is amazing. I'll write out all the journal entries for this male person, and then I will eventually add it all. First, I was thinking I'll add it all to the website, to this Imagining Indians in the 25th Century website. But then, so I'm writing the thing and everything, and that's when I start to realize, like, oh no, why would I just add to that piece when I can make a whole new piece, And slowly I was trying, and then I was like, okay, I wanted to look a video game. How do I do that? How do I do that? I would ask different people, and they're like, well, you could animate it. I'm like, okay, how, I don't know how to animate. Can you, do you know an animator? Oh yeah, this person. How long would this take? Oh, it'll probably take, 3 years. I'm like, oh, I can pay someone 3 years worth of work? I don't think so, So I was looking around, and this is when my next slide shows up. Around 2006 it took. Somebody showed me Second Life. Who here has heard of Second Life? A little more people, yeah. This is an ad for Second Life. Escape to the internet's largest user-created 3D virtual world community. I believe that's still true. Last time I check frequently of how many users. Any one time you log in, there's 40,000 people in here. Mind you, I don't know where they all are, because I walk around trying to make friends, and nobody's actually talking to you anymore, which is not how it was back in the day when I did join, and it was this super fun place to go and talk to people and play and try things. And it's still that for me, though. It's not the social part, but being able to play and make things is why I stay in Second Life. And so, yes, someone said to me, they show me this thing, and they're like, you can customize avatars, and you can make machinima. And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, it's movies made in a virtual environment. It's just, where you take the action in your game. And I was like, oh, I've done that, because I used to play SSX snowboarding. Anybody? And you can take video of yourself going down the hill and watch your highlights later, and it's fun. So I was like, all right, I can do that. But of course there was no manual, and so it was really, so now here I am. I have the script, right? I've got my journal entries of this new character, and I have my medium, I think, right? I'm like, I know you can do it in here. Someone said you could, so let's try it. And I have another very important piece. I had a grant. I got this grant. In fact, it's too long to tell you, so I'm just going to skip over some bits and tell you that AbTech got a grant in which we were able to hire students. And so I had these students helping me figure this out. We would go into Second Life and we would figure everything out, how to move, how to film, and then how to get your avatar to do what you actually want it to do. And so it took 2 years, but I got my first episode of TimeTraveller TM created. So do you feel you know what TimeTraveller TM is about now? Yes, because I showed you that thing? Great. And so what I want to tell you is that, so we have Hunter, he's the character, and he is using TimeTraveller TM, the edutainment system, to learn about his heritage. And where's the first place he goes? And you now know why. Here, he comes here. And he hangs out with 4 Dakota Sioux. And the moment of August 17th, I'm going to forget the year, 1865, the moment of the event that triggers the war. And he walks around. So for those of you who want to watch this episode, it's playing in there. It's the second episode. But I will just describe it to you a little bit. He shows up, he puts on the glasses, I think he types in warrior, can't remember what he types in, and he appears next to these 4 men, and they're walking around, and he's like, is this a war party? Because he's all like, yeah, I want to hurt people, or whatever it is boys do. No, I'm just joking. But he's like, oh, I think they're searching for food, they're starving. And so they try to, they find a little nest of eggs on the ground, and they're like, all right, breakfast, but one of them breaks the eggs, and then they're like, there's a farmer right over there. Let's go ask him to lend us a hen so we can have eggs for a few days. And, basically the settler says this phrase that is a very not great phrase to say to a Native person, which is, go back to where you came from. And so this is how I imagined what an exchange that might have happened, an exchange that no one ever could know, between these men and the settlers to start to actually, what could have happened that would have made them kill those people. And so that's what that's my imagining of it, with lots of details from the books I read, but also some stuff I just made up. And he continues on going through events of significant to First Nations people that have a conflict in them. I won't tell you tons about this one because I could spend my whole hour talking about it, but it's called the Oka Crisis, or the Siege of Gunnesadage, which this is an event that happened in 1990 and happened involving my reserve, Kahnawake. And this image that you're seeing is copying a very famous photograph that circulated internationally at the time of a Mohawk warrior facing a Canadian Army soldier. And I happen to know the man who was really the warrior in like real life, and I felt totally okay doing this doing this image, and this is in Hunter's development. This is when he realizes that he's Mohawk, and from this point on, it's really about there's a lot of Mohawk history going forward in this one, and yes. The other fun stuff that I think you might have seen in the quick 3-minute piece is that there's a love interest. It's Garakwahawi. She's from this time, or actually, I guess I made this in 2000. I finished in 2014, so she's from really 2010. And they fall in love. A glitch in the system, or some magic, gets her a pair of glasses for herself. And, spoiler alert, I mean, the big thing that happens in the end of TimeTraveller TM is Garakwahawi chooses to live in the future. And that's kind of my whole message. Yeah. And so I thought I would tell you, so I wanted to let you know about that. And then I wanted to tell you, like, what has happened since, how different pieces have come from TimeTraveller TM. So I'm skipping over a few other machinimas that I've made, which I'm happy to talk about if you're interested, but I wanted to show you this project, Calico and Camouflage, because it's my first fashion collection. Who knew? Who knew that was going to happen? So I have a little intro video that I made, like this kind of like selfie, and so I'll play it for you. And again, I think it's more interesting than me just doing all the talking. It's still me, but
Sego Sewagwego. Hi everyone. I'm Skawennati, talking to you via my avatar, XOX. I'm a Ganyange Haga of Kahnawake, and I live and work in Jojage, aka Montreal. XOX, of course, is from cyberspace. I thought it was fitting that she present the Calico and Camouflage collection because it was first developed for her and her avatar pals. Calico and Camouflage is a fashion collection of resistance wear. It is composed, simply, of traditionally inspired ribbon shirts and military-style combat pants. I've done a switcheroo and made ribbon shirts with camouflage patterns and the pants with calicos, bringing the two patterns into dialogue with each other. The two articles of clothing, as well as the two patterns, are intertwined with the history of colonization on Turtle Island. With the help of students at Concordia, I designed an updated and abstracted camouflage pattern, plus a calico that I first developed for XOX's signature outfit. Powerful pink, steel blue, olive green, and cool gray are the dominant colors. I imagined them reflecting contemporary landscapes of activism, including demonstrations in city streets, rural roadblocks, courtrooms, and, of course, cyberspace. As someone who has been making costumes for avatars for quite some time, I didn't think about making these outfits in real life until I saw the call for submissions from Indigenous Fashion Week Toronto. Suddenly, I knew that these outfits had to be worn by real human beings, Ungwe, by those of us who wish to simultaneously proclaim our indigeneity and our readiness to resist ongoing assimilation. I seriously can't believe I have to protest this shit.
Thank you so much. I meant to say, I wanted to take a moment when I was talking about the Oka crisis to talk about how I saw camouflage all the time, and maybe you saw a little bit, very quick flash there. You know, that's when, in my mind, that's when, I don't know, Native people started wearing camouflage, you know, but I've learned that it started much earlier. And of course, so there's always that mix and match of like the, you know, the camouflage pants and the ribbon shirts, the traditional ribbon shirts with the calico. And just somewhere along the line, I was like, how, it'd be so interesting to see it flipped around. So this project has really grown. So what happened was, I went to Indigenous Fashion Week Toronto, the first one, and I was invited to give a talk, which I was like, you see me, because I was like, you've been making costumes for all this time in you know, the virtual world, and I was very thrilled. And what was super exciting too is that I got to go for free to these fashion shows. I don't know if I'd ever been to one in real life, not like a real fashion show, you know, but I'd certainly seen them on TV, and I know I was expecting it to be like thin, angry models walking down the thing. But it was not. It was people of all sizes and colors and ages, and they were smiling, and they were all wearing Indigenous clothing. And I was enwrapped, if that's the right word. I was thrilled, and I thought it was so wonderful, and I was like, I'm making a fashion show. I can do this in Second Life. This, you know, I'm going to do it with my avatars, you know, because I have the power. And so I made them all. And see that runway that I bought? We bought this runway, and the models are walking down it, and I'm like, this is so boring. It's terrible. I can't inflict this on anybody, you know. So I was like, okay, I don't really know what I'm going to do with that, but I've got these avatars, I've got these signs, you know. And then a curator comes to visit me. Her name is Marie Perrault, and you know, they come to visit. They're like, "What do you got? What are you working on?" You know. So I show them, and I show them this. I show them these characters, and I'm like, "But I just don't know what I'm going to do with them." Excuse me, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. And she's like, "Well, can you print them?" And I was like, yes, of course I can print them. And she's like, because I'm doing a show that's going to take place in a shopping mall, and I want you to put them all over the shopping mall. And I'm like, okay. So that's what we did. Like, I made some signs in French because I'm in Montreal, right, where there's lots of French speaking, and put them all over this like weird mall in Old Montreal. It's like between two old buildings, so there's like all these different surfaces, you know, everywhere. And stuck them on there. I was very happy with that. Oh, and also happy, I don't know if I kept a slide of this. I didn't. Also got to like wrap like the escalator and like post and stuff just with the Calico and Camouflage patterns. That was very nice. I like that a lot. And then also showed them in you know, Canada's version of Times Square, which is called, I don't even remember, Dundas. I can't remember what it's called. Sorry, but this is in Toronto, and so like there's all these screens. So here's the pillars, which you see them, and this is when I also changed more of the signs to now have Anishinaabemowin. So Anishinaabe people are here too, I believe. So made some Anishinaabemowin signs, and here, that's one of them. And then comes around the next Indigenous Fashion Week Toronto, and I see a call for like runway fashion show designers, and I'm like, okay, so many of the things I made in Second Life in the past were like gravity defying and like not really, you can't really, you know, make them that easily, you know, but this is like shirts and pants. And like, I've been sewing since I was a little girl. Now, so I was like, I'm gonna apply. So I applied and I got in, and now I've learned the limits of my sewing ability, okay? So, I mean, I am very good at applying ribbon in a straight line. I'm very good at that. I'm a very detail-oriented person, but oh my God, the pockets on those things, on those pants were killing me. But yeah, I made the whole collection with some help from certain people like my cousin Kathleen Deerhouse, and Gahandawaks Tuisha did a lot of ironing for me, and also Karen Lamkoff. Some of the same people that, if you saw very quickly the credits of the little video. And it was amazing. So, well, COVID ruined that show, so that didn't actually happen on the runway. But one cool thing that happened is this picture got into Vogue magazine online. So I was very happy about that. And then I started doing, put the show in a mix and match kind of version, put the clothing on some mannequins. And then this, don't blink because it's very quick, but it finally was in a show in August at Santa Fe. That's it. How are we doing for time? Okay, so this is a project that I finished on December 31st because it was due on December 31st. Actually, I think I finished it on December 30th. It's a project. Let me see what I got here. I don't have any video of this right now because I started this project in 2017. When well, it's not true. Anyway, when I decided I needed to do a project about Ganyangeha, the Mohawk language, about my journey on the Mohawk language. So this project has, like TimeTraveller TM, this project tries to do a few things in one piece. One of them is the language thing. I was like, I was, the first household I lived in was a Ganyangeha speaking household, but like I don't really speak it. And so over the years I have taken Ganyangeha classes, and yet I can still barely I can't really have a conversation, not even a baby conversation, sadly. But anyway, nonetheless, I believe my presence, I think just having your body in a place can be very important, like a protest, but also like a language class. And so I went to language classes, even though I wasn't as good as a lot of the people, and I wasn't continuing all the time. I sat there because the Canadian government is now giving money to Indigenous people to revitalize their languages, and if you're not there, the money's not going to come. So I've been sitting in there, and I try. I'm not sitting in there on my phone. I'm really trying, but so that was one thing. And then the other thing is I've been really trying to think about, why do we want to be Indigenous? Why do we want to remain Indigenous? Why do we not want to be assimilated? And I mean, the answer is obvious. It's because we're awesome. And we had some amazing things going on before contact and after also. And one of those things is words before all else. In my language, it is the Ohandu Gariwat Dekwa. And it is also known as the Thanksgiving Address. And in it, we thank all the natural world. There's many versions of it. There's many ways to do it. What I'm doing here is a version that was given to one of my language classes. It's the simplest version, meaning we just say the line and the thing we thank, and that's it. But when you hear like other people do it, they'll be like, and we give thanks for the people because they're so nice and warm, and they do this and they do that, or we give thanks to the fish because they feed us and they clean the water, and, like it can be really long. So I was like, this is something that we have to offer society. I want to like assimilate the rest of them to start doing this, and also. Oh, sorry, lost my train of thought. So that's one thing, like my language journey. Words before all else is something that we should all say. And I believe it is for all of us. So people say the Creator gave us these words and the instructions to say this every day. And some people feel that they mean that the Creator gave it to Ungwe, which is Indigenous people, or Ganyangehaga, which is Mohawk people, or Haudenosaunee, which is Iroquois people. It's for all of us. I feel very comfortable sharing this with you. I feel very comfortable if you take this home and remember some of it. And if tomorrow morning you wake up and you say, thank you, brother, son, or something, giving thanks for one thing, I think it's, extremely good for our mental health to look at the things we're thankful for and to recognize them. So, and the final thing is, I asked myself in making this piece, what does it mean if an avatar gives thanks in an unnatural world? Cyberspace. And so I can't show you a clip because I didn't prepare it. It was too much technical problem for me at the moment, so because it's still like super brand new and it's not compressed. But I have a couple of still images from it. And so this is giving thanks for the medicines. And so I don't think it would be very difficult for us today to sit in a longhouse and do that. So that's why I had my avatar do it. I tried to put her into situations where it was like only she could do that. And here she's giving thanks for the insects. Ozinua sua. Here she's giving thanks for the waters, and she's surfing on a shark, which is also something you can only do in Second Life pretty much, because Second Life is so random like that. You find these things that you can do. Okay, so that's just it. But I guess I also want to, and so while I was doing this project, okay, there's a very important thing that we thank, which is the three sisters. Has anyone heard of that over here? Yeah. Joan Hekwa is what they're called in our language, and that means they sustain us. Corn, beans, and squash are beloved personifications of these veggies. I showed some of the pictures I'm about to show you on Facebook, and someone said, the edgy veggies, and I'm like, oh my God, I love that, let me use it. And then my husband, who I fully, totally respect, is like, don't do that, baby, it's like not good at all. But I'm just like, I gotta. So right now, just for this presentation of the edgy veggies, but it's probably not gonna be the real title because he's probably right. He's so often right, very annoying. So this is how my works all start. I buy sketchbooks from the dollar store because I have an issue of like, I buy the expensive, beautiful ones, and then I'm afraid to write in them. So now I buy these, and I'm so happy. And I just make like the screen, and I do my almost stick figures, and I write notes, and that's my storyboard. So here are the three sisters, and you see XOX on the side there. Like first she's seeing corn, then she's seeing corn and beans, and then she's seeing corn, beans, and squash. And I'm like, okay, what are they gonna wear? And so I put them in like traditional calico ribbon dresses. And I'm just like, no, that's not, it's just, why would I do that? When they can be superheroes. They are amazing. These women, these people, they have been through everything. They have been through slash and burn campaigns. They've been through Monsanto, and now climate change, And so, I mean, they're like warriors, but they're also kind of like goddesses. And what is that today? Superheroes. So I really wanted to develop superhero costumes for these three. And we did so many, and when I'm saying we, I'm talking about the amazing students that work with me. They tried all these different things, which were like many failures. So I'm not going to spend too much time, but just tried with like ribbongers, and and then a big thing we tried to figure out was to get them to have different body shapes. That's something I struggle with in Second Life. We managed to do that, and then they changed the bodies, but that's okay because they're even better now. I'm just trying things with them, trying these super Fantastic Four type look here, and then bigger. Oh yeah, and I love this little story. My cousin is he's a seed keeper, and he has been growing a traditional garden for decades at this point. And I was like, and he has this really cute Facebook page, which if anyone ever wants to join, it's so cute. It's called Steve's Garden Tips. He's like the most Mohawk guy, and he's so Mohawk he doesn't need to say, I'm a Mohawk seed keeper. He's just like, Steve's Garden Tips, it's so cute. And he has a talk on there, which I watched, and in the talk he's like, describing the moment when he's like, I've been looking at this traditional beadwork for so long, and then it just hit me, oh my God, that symbol, the symbol on corn that we see in our beadwork, is the corn sprout. And this spiral is the bean sprout. So then I write them, and I'm like, okay, it's so awesome. What's the squash? You never said what the squash one was. And so he draws it for me. He takes a picture and sends it to me. So I never really saw that on the beadwork. I mean, you could kind of make it out, but like I was just like, this has got to be it. So yeah, those are now their symbols. And so slowly working on this project, trying to figure out how they would look. And finally, this is the final picture. And this is how they look in Words Before All Else, when we thank Joan Hekwa. But then there's also a verse where we give thanks for the 4 winds. And here's XOX flying a kite, and I'm like, we need 3 more people. Come on, girls. And so I have little kites like designed with their patterns and stuff on them too. It's very fun. There's a lot. I just wasn't sure how long it would take because I was trying to tell this new story, but okay, I'm just going to show you this one quick thing instead of telling the whole story because I'm very excited about it too. XOX was going to visit the Queen. She died, so now we probably have to visit the King. But I did this whole series before she died, and you know, there's these 4 kings who visited a different queen in 1710, so I wanted to have them, you know, a similar thing going on. So here she is with the wampum belt, just like that other king, the king guy had. And then her 3 buddies, of course. She has to take corn. And here's her powwow princess crown with her symbol, and you can see her symbol in her dress as well. So they have, basically I made royal portraits of each of them. And yeah, Ozaheda is beans, and Onu Uzura is squash. Okay, and now I'm really going to stop talking. I'm going to open the floor for questions is what I'm going to do, right? Yawa, thank you.
So I will go ahead and pull up the Q&A. There should be instructions right on the screen that kind of walks you through. But of course, let us know if you have any tradish raise your hand questions as well.
Can I do this thing? Okay. Oh, jeez, a micro.
Oh, so great. So, yeah, that was super fun. Oh my gosh. How are you looking at, just because AI, like right now, like we're, even for the fashion, because it would be interesting if you put in something like the 3 sisters and then some. I don't know. I've never done AI, so I've only I have a digital artist friend who is really interested in it, and I wonder what you would get, or what do you think of AI?
I am afraid of the singularity, the convergence. So I am afraid of Terminator happening. So my husband, Jason, the smart guy I mentioned before, we decided to, we actually put on an AI workshop a couple of years ago. And I was like, this doesn't fit me. I don't really want to do it. And he was like, him and everybody else in the workshop, like 20 amazing Indigenous thinkers and artists were like, it's happening and we need to be there. And I'm like, you go. I'm going to stay back, okay? That's how I feel about it. But I do think the work they're doing is amazing because what they're talking about is how to make AI Indigenous, how to not incorporate the biases that are, incorporated into AI right now. So like, AI is really data, okay? It's really large amounts of data being massaged into different directions. And the data is flawed. The data is already biased. So and it doesn't look like we can get new data. It looks like all the data that we're generating now is based upon data we already had. So it's just, I don't know how we can, it's stained, basically. So they're going to figure out over the next 7 years with a very large grant that my husband spearheaded, my partner, that smart guy, Jason Lewis. They're going to figure out, how they can do it, like fix it, or not fix it, but create their own, or, something to combat the bad stuff. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Anything about my work? Oh, okay. Let's see how this works now. Oh, I can, right. That's what I was telling you. I have to like. Thank you for that question. Okay, it's a new question. It's anonymous, so I don't know who to look at, so I'll just look at all of you. So virtual clothing is like easy in a way. Okay, you know what? Any medium you choose, there's stuff that it does really well and there's stuff it's terrible at. Okay, so the virtual clothing is easy in the sense like I can put a shirt on an avatar and it's like gonna move with the avatar, and you're gonna see that it's a shirt. But I can't do anything like, and you probably didn't even see this in the pictures, metallic thread on the ribbons. Can't do that. Can't see that on an avatar. Let me see what else. Let me see the silhouettes to real life. So by the use of silhouettes, I think anonymous questioner, I think that you know fashion, maybe more than I do, because I understand that that's a word used in fashion about like a new silhouette, but I was not really concerned with the silhouette. I feel like a lot of my work, actually, I'm really concerned with what it says to people, like what it conveys in a emotional and intellectual level. I'm not that concerned with what size my screen is seeing TimeTraveller TM. I'm concerned that you understand what's going on in the movie. And sort of like, I wanted people to look at those clothing items and feel pride and I wanted them to feel recognized, and I wanted people who saw those items together to know very clearly that those people wearing that were Indigenous and they were not going to be assimilated. So I hope I've answered your question. Okay, all right, I'll do one of a traditional, yeah.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me with this combo mask microphone. But thank you for the talk. Really, so much that's interesting that I would want to ask about. But I think it sort of relates to maybe some questions up there as well. But interested in the process of the machinima. Like you've talked about sort of the storyboarding element of that. But I'm wondering about like the filmmaking process of recording that. Like I think about like the snowboarding game. Like I've done like sort of the screen grab that's sort of programmed in. You have like the limited set of motions that you're doing, and I'm wondering how, as you're thinking as like a creator and like a filmmaker in this context, how you're like directing the virtual camera and the angles. And
Thank you. I love answering that question. I've had it a couple times in my life, but I got to come closer. I got to do some acting. I have to show you that an avatar only walks like this when you're pressing the arrow key, right? So that's funny, because like you think, and the weird thing is you think you're pointing the avatar at the person you want it to go to, and it does this. So we like build invisible walls so that the avatar will go where we ask it to go. An avatar does not sit down. An avatar is you click on the chair and it's sitting in the chair. It's standing or it's sitting. On, off, 1, 0. Okay? So if you wanted to sit down, like I really wanted my avatar to sit down in a specific scene in the Peacemaker Returns, we made an animation. We actually created an animation that she could sit down. There's other examples of that. For example, one of them is that I really wanted, you might have seen it even in the clip. There's the old lady avatar kisses the old man avatar. Second Life, for those of you who don't know, is a pretty sexual place. And I thought it would be very easy to find a kiss. No. All the kisses were not chaste. And so we had to animate that as well. And so what that means is there's different, like some people might know Blender, there's different softwares that you can use to create animations. And one thing that Second Life is fantastic at is you can upload animations and other things as well too. So like that's like that, so that question that you're asking, like you have to think about like some things that you would normally see in a film, you just can't do in a machinima. So another thing is I wanted my imagining of the revelation of Hunter in the first scene, in the first episode, was that he was gonna, you know, fly down the flyway and stop at the camera, and you were gonna see all the billboards lit up like in the reflection of his helmet, and then you were gonna take off the helmet, okay? No reflections in Second Life. And no taking off the helmet. The helmet is on or the helmet is off. You can't even have him holding the helmet in his hands unless you create a special animation for that. You saw him take off the glasses off of Gadzitsahawi, like that was oh my God. You can only, like, the glasses can only be in one hand, they can only attach to one point of the body. So he wasn't actually doing this. He was attached here, his other hand was animated to be here. And, you know, we had to do this, and then we had to cut when it was off. Like, you know, so there's lots of things like that to direct and to think about. And it's changed how it was great, because like, that's why it took me 2 years to make the first episode, because I was learning all this stuff, you know, and then slowly we've gotten better and better to the point where now I can do it much faster. We have our tricks up our sleeve that we use, but there's like, so right now I'm doing, you would think the easiest machinima of my life. I'm gonna film a Three Sisters garden. No avatars will be in this thing, just corn and beans and squash growing, okay? But all I want is for the light to change. And so we were banging our heads against the wall trying to figure out how I could show the change of time in like could I get, you know when you see that, like the shadows moving across the thing, like that's what I'm trying to have in 7 minutes. And I was like, okay, I gotta film it and then cut it and film it, but I'm gonna have little bees and butterflies, so they're gonna be like, So I've got to anyway, we finally found there's a setting in Second Life. If you go deep in there, honestly, it's like a city, or like Photoshop. You know how Photoshop has you can do everything in Photoshop 5 different ways. Like there's so many tools and settings. It's the same thing. It's a world that you have to figure out. So, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna see one of these questions. Oh, 3 people want to know, what are some of your dreams? Oh my God, that's a great, oh my God. In the near future, well, I'm still gonna dream of this peace and justice. That's my #1 dream. I mean, really, this is super corny sounding, and you've probably heard it before, but I think it's good to say out loud, Honestly, I just want to see everybody healthy and self-actualized and, happy. My biggest dream, I potentially think that could come about with the fall of capitalism. That's, that would be my thing, my #1 wish. Let's just, dissolve capitalism. I'd really love for it to happen without violence. I can't quite see that coming about without violence, and that scares me very much. Yeah. But yeah, and then, teleportation would be nice. Food replicators would also be good. Yeah, those would be fun things. But near future, I think for near future, that's how close are we talking about? I would just say oh my God, let's just get people well. There's so many people who are not well and who are suffering at this time. If we could do that, I'm good. I'd be very happy. Okay. based on Indigenous Futurism. I think that's based on Indigenous Futurism. You know, I'll just say one more thing about capitalism. We created it. It's not gravity. It's not a physical attribute of our world. We can get rid of it. And that's one thing about pre-contact, is it wasn't capitalist here. It was a kind of scary word, communism. It was like a kind of sharing of the resources, you know, and I think that was like, and from my understanding of the history I've read, people had incredible amounts of freedom. There were chiefs, but these chiefs did not tell people what to do. They were more like guides, from my understanding. Like, they weren't like a king or a queen where you had to do what they said or you'd be killed. It wasn't like that. It was like they were like, you know, we need the corn planted. We need someone to take out the trash. We got to go to, we're going to go kill some people because, well, we're going to go to war for dumb reasons. They weren't perfect either. There were some, dumb things, but okay, next question. Do I ever revisit, that's a great question, Anonymous. Do you ever revisit old works and update them with new technology? Oh, do I ever want to? All the time. But that smart guy I keep referring to, he's like, why would you do that? He's like, leave that one alone and spend your energy on making a new work. You want to make work? Make new work. And so, so many times I have wanted to, me and my right-hand woman, Nancy Townsend, we talked so much about reshooting the first episode, because there's the first episode is shot at a whole other resolution than the rest of them. There's things we didn't know yet, like there's stuff that we look at and we're like, oh, cringe, like we hate that. I'm not pointing them out to you, so that hopefully you never see them. But yeah, no, I think he's right again. No, I am not gonna do that. Have you worked on updating Second Life to feel more being in a real life? For example, the moon of the avatars, yeah. No, also no, because, okay, it's a fight you will never win. Okay, unless I become a developer, if I spend all my time just trying to make it, there are better minds than me who are on that. They're on that program, that problem, and they haven't figured it out. So no, I am not going to do that. Again, it goes with the same thing about I don't care what size the screen is, I care that you get it. And so, and also embrace the glitch. Like I see, like the hands going through the body, it's like, I know it's not great, but it's like, it's kind of cute. Like actually, cute's not even the right word. What I think is happening that I think works, at least in my pieces, is that the sound, the voices, the very human voices, the beautiful music, the sound effects, they're bringing you in. They're like telling you, this is real, this is real, this is real. And then, hand goes into things, and you're like, whoa, you sort of jump out. And so there's a push and pull happening when you're watching the story that I think ends up working to the piece's advantage. What are the limits of everything? It's like people are like, you can do anything in Second Life, it's limitless. I'm like, it is not limitless. There's a lot you can do. It's very special and it's amazing. And I could never have done TimeTraveller TM in a live action film. I mean, never. I don't know how I would have ever started. How could I have a manned jetpack down a flyway? Like, I don't have that kind of money or contacts or anything, but in Second Life, it's like, it's nothing, I bought a jetpack. In the end, we end up, one of the wonderful research assistants made the beautiful jetpack that we have, but I bought this one jetpack first. And yeah, and just like click fly. And he's flying, Yeah, so what are the limits? What other platforms are you excited about? None. If Second Life goes away, because it did threaten bankruptcy at one time, I am not going back. It is like a marriage, okay? I love my husband, but I am not going to put in that kind of time and energy with somebody else or some other platform. It's like, we're in it together. I'm with Second Life till the end. I promise you that, because, Yeah, I still have many things I want to do in machinima. I love that medium so much. I'm surprised at how much. I don't think of myself as a digital artist. I don't. I believe I use the medium that's right for the message, and machinima has been the right medium for so long, you know? So I'm gonna do that, and when that dies, I'm just gonna probably make clothes, because I just want to say one thing. You know, this question about the realist, like, I see people, mostly everyone, it seems to be roughly divided to anyone older than me looks at the work and is like, they have this ew face on. They're like, why did you choose to work in this medium? Or why, one question, did you not use real people because you couldn't afford it? And I was like, and I had spent that talk mostly talking about how the medium is the message and futurism, and there's nothing more futuristic to me than a virtual world in which Indians can teleport and fly, you know? And then she says this, and I'm just like, you didn't listen to a word I said, did you? Yeah. So, but making clothing, wow. People get clothes. Everybody understands clothing. It's just like this whole amount of talking and explaining and verbiage I have to do is poof, gone. Even if you don't think you like fashion, everything we put on is political. Like, there's a meaning. If you choose not to wear clothes, that's political. It's just like clothing is really, there it was all along, you know? So that's a really interesting direction that I'm very interested in going in if I live that long. All right. Any more? I love talking about this stuff. I love, you know, but I also don't want to hold you here. Thank you.